In this next step, we need to write a class that parses the XML contributions and maps the tags and values they contain to class attributes. This is what we call a descriptor. We can see from the sample contribution we created earlier that we need to map the retention policy's ID, the number of days before archiving and deletion, and the industries list. So let's create our descriptor and name it Retention Policy Descriptor. A descriptor makes use of specific annotations in order to parse the tags and values and get their content. These are called Xmap Annotations. From now on, I'll show you at each step how the Xmap Annotations will be mapped onto our sample contribution. We'll start off with a mandatory annotation, @xObject. It must be placed before the class declaration and is used to get the root tag of a contribution. We'll map it to the retention policy tag. Here's our mapping so far. Now we want to get the retention policy's ID. The @xnode annotation is what we need this time. It allows us to get a given tag's property or the tag itself using the tag @property syntax. Since we're already in the retention tag, we'll get the ID property only and map it to a retention policy ID attribute in our class. Our mapping now handles the retention policy tag entirely. Next comes the number of days before the contract is archived or deleted. We can still use the @xnode annotation, but we need to adjust the syntax a little in order to do the mapping. When the value is in between the opening and closing tags, like we did for the archiving period, we just need to get the tag. Here is our updated mapping. And when the value is stored in a tag's property, like we did for the deletion period, we need to indicate both the tag and the property and store the value in a variable. Almost there. Finally, we'll have to get the industries list and map it to a string list in our class. Here we'll use the @xnode list annotation. We need to tell it what to look for using the same syntax we used with the @xnode object, the collection type that we want to create, and the type of each object in the collection. In this case, we want to create a string list out of string values. And that's it. Let's have a look at the final result and the corresponding mapping. There are plenty of other mapping possibilities using Xmap Annotations. Feel free to have a look at their source code for more information. Now that our descriptor is ready, the next thing to do is add the extension point to the service.